What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video talking about the time that my dad found my acid. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do. I just took a really fat dab, and I'm really baked right now, so I don't know, maybe mess up. We'll see how this goes, man. But either way, let's take a brief moment to talk about the merch. Head to goblin420.com and check out all the new merch. We just dropped a new hoodie today. It's mad comfy. Hey, beautiful new merch. Go check out goblin420.com. I appreciate you guys for the love and support on that. And also, let's take a moment for our sponsor today. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. The playoffs are here, and with MyBookie, you could take home your biggest W's of the season thanks to their double deposit bonus. All you got to do is head over to MyBookie and use code GOBLIN on sign up, and bang, you could double your first deposit and have some fantastic luck. All you got to do is pick the games you want to go in on and cross your fingers that you win. With some smart bets, you won't even have to cross your fingers. Before the playoffs kick off, wager on your pick to take home the Super Bowl 56. The Packers look like favorites, but you can't count out the Buccaneers, so head to MyBookie now and take your pick. And don't forget to use code GOBLIN. Big shout out to them. Now let's dive into the video. So I want to give a little bit of kind of backstory to this before we really dive into it. At this time of my life, I had just dropped out of high school. I wasn't necessarily at the best point in my life, right? I got kicked out of my mom's house. I was living with my dad. I just dropped out of high school. I'd crashed my car recently, so I didn't have a car. It was just a bad time, right? Not going so hot. And also, my job sucked. I worked at a grocery store, Jewel-Osco, for those of you who live in Illinois, and it was terrible. It was an awful job. I don't even want to talk about that. But that's just kind of giving you a little bit of an idea where I was. So at the time, I was living with my dad. And my dad was very different than my mom. I haven't really talked about him a ton in many of my videos, but he was really strict, and he had cameras in the house, which was really weird. So, like, he'd like, see me smoking and shit, and he'd be like, "What are you doing?" You know? And I'd be like, "Bro, this is so fucked. You know, I can't tolerate this." So I really got into taking a lot of acid because it's something that, you know, I can't be caught doing on camera, bro. Like, whatever. It looks like I ate something, you know? It's not like smoking. I can just go for a little walk and smoke outside, you know? No big deal. So I had gotten into the habit of dropping quite a bit of acid, and I was stocking up on it because my main person for acid was, for a long time, Ashton, but at this point, he had already moved, and it got very tough to find any good tabs. So whenever I'd stumble upon some, mainly from my buddy Michael, I'd usually grab them, and I'd grab a few. Nothing crazy, but I'd grab like a 10 strip or so. Now, I had a few good stash spots that I knew of that I could use in my room. At least I thought they were good. But my dad was one of those parents who would go through your room and find shit, you know? Like, he'd really get up in there when I was not home. So it was a problem because I had to get super creative with hiding weed, hiding tabs, hiding really anything that I had at the time. It was pretty difficult. He would go through everything. I know I've talked about my mom finding shit, and she would. But at my mom's house, I would be a little more blatant about it. At my dad's house, sometimes I'd try to hide it, and the shit would still happen. When he would go through the shit, he would go through the shit. It might not be super frequent like every other day, but a lot of times when I was not home, he'd be searching. So I thought I had found a good spot. I put him in some tin foil, and I put him in the back of my freezer. I'm sitting there. I had a mini fridge that I bought, and I put it in my room, right? I needed that shit in there. I was like, dude, it's fire. So I saved up my fucking Jewel-Osco money, and somehow I managed to get a mini fridge. I normally spend all my money on weed, but you know what? We did it, boys. But either way, I put him in the back of my freezer thinking, oh, this is such a fire stash spot. And it worked for a few days. You know, I went out and I tripped like almost the first day I got him. I went back to Michael's crib and tripped, which that's a whole different story. That's a whole different story. We only dropped like a couple tabs each, you know. It was a pretty normal trip. But my dad still hadn't found my stash. I wasn't riding around with my whole 10 strip on me all the time. But when I went over to Michael's, I always made sure to bring a fair bit because you never know who's going to show up there, and it's always a good time. But we're not going to talk about the whole trip there because that's not really what this video's about. After I had left Michael's house that day, I did the classic Uber method, which I've talked about in my previous videos to get around since I didn't have a car at this point. I've talked about this before in my videos, but basically, Uber used to have this $20 sign-up code for new accounts, but you could just make a new phone number on like those text now sites and all that, and just make a brand new account, and there was no minimum spend, and it would cover your tip. So I could Uber to Michael's house for $15 both ways, easily. It was not too far at all. And I could just use that discount code, just make 2 accounts, one to go there and one to go home, and I'm set. You know what I'm saying? So it was fantastic. But I had luckily not put all of my tabs back together when I got back home that day, which is lucky. You'll realize why a little later. But either way, when I got home that day, I was still tripping a fair bit, and I put the tabs, the extra ones I had in my pocket, in my nightstand. I put them in a very convenient little spot. I had a couple books in my nightstand there because I like to give the illusion that I would read a book, but I could really put tabs in like the very deep parts of the book, and sometimes it would work as a good hiding spot, which, it shocked me that worked better than my other spot. I'll say that. So a couple days go by, and, I still have the tabs, and I'm feeling good. And finally, it's about 2 days after this initial trip I'm telling you about with Michael. And I go to work really early in the morning. I go to work at like 4 a.m. and I have a long shift. I'm working from 4 a.m. all the way till like noon, right? So it's a full shift, and it's a shit hour to start. And I'm just stocking shelves. That was my whole job. I used to chain smoke the hell out of cigarettes, which is also where a fair bit of my money went, because stocking shelves is just unbearable. And nothing made that better except for like 10 Marbreds a shift, I had to do what I had to do. But either way, I went to work that day, and it was a normal shift, nothing special. I wasn't fucked up at all. I was bone sober. But I went back home after my shift, and luckily I live close enough to this grocery store where I could just walk to and from. And I walk back home, and I get home, and I'm chilling for a while, and I don't notice that the tabs in my fridge are gone. I'm chilling, just playing some games, and finally later in the day, in the evening, Michael hits me up, and he asks what I'm doing. I tell him, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm fucking chilling, man. I'm not doing shit. Let's hang out. He said, for sure. Do you have any more tabs? Like, I'll buy a couple off you. I said, yeah, I should be able to get you right. So I go get ready, I take a shower, all of that, and I throw on some new clothes, and I go in my room, and I'm making my new Uber account, right? Gotta do what I gotta do. I'm not paying for that shit. And as I'm getting ready to call the Uber, I go to my fridge to pull out more of my tabs to see how many I could serve to Michael. I moved the shit out of the way that I had in the little freezer in this mini fridge, and I realized that the tabs aren't there. I'm not too worried at first. I figure maybe they just fell out. There was this little gap at the back of the freezer. So I'm looking around, where my water bottles are, my, soda cans and all that. I'm moving shit around, and I can't find them. I realized pretty quickly that the tabs are gone. Now, this is a big problem because I, at this point, didn't have a ton of money to blow. I needed those tabs, I needed to break even when I tripped. I needed to have someone to trip with me who would buy the tabs off me so I could at least break even, It's just, I fucking needed that at the time. So I was like, fuck, dude, I couldn't believe it. And luckily, as I'd mentioned earlier, I had like 2 tabs left in my dresser. My nightstand. But that was like the only good stroke of luck I had the whole goddamn day. So I've got this new Uber account, and I hit Michael up, and I'm like, bro, I think my fucking dad took my tabs. Like, they're not here. I know for a fact I haven't taken them out. Now, to be fair, I hadn't checked for them in like a day or two at this point. So I don't really know when they got found, but I have a hunch it was while I was at work this day. But I guess I'll never really know, I'll never actually truly know. But I have a feeling it was while I was at work for this shift. But at this point, my dad was gone. He was at work. I went to work before him. He left around like 7 or 8 in the morning. I left at fucking 4 a.m. So he was completely gone, and there was nothing I could like say to him. I can't hit him up and be like, hey, can I get my acid back? I don't really think that's gonna fly. I don't think that's gonna go too well. So I take the 2 tabs I have left, and I call my Uber, and I go over to Michael's house, and we're sitting there, and I'm explaining to him, I'm like, dude, my dad found my fucking tabs. My dad was the kind of person who, when he finds that shit, he's not just gonna hit you up immediately or text you or call you. He likes to let it simmer. I'll be sitting in my room and he'll come stomping up the stairs and fucking open my door aggressive as hell and start yelling at me about it. And I'll be like, dude, it's been like a day and a half. Like, what is the deal here, you know? That's his style. So at this point, I just dipped out of the house and went to go trip on this last tab with Michael. Now, we're chilling for a little bit, and we pop a tab each. You know, he buys the one from me, so at least I broke even on this trip. And we're chilling, you know, we're hanging out. He had a little bit of bud, so we were smoking a bit. I didn't bring any bud with me because I was so flabbergasted about the loss of the tabs that I just brought my fucking, my other tabs, which, by the way, it shocks me that those were not found. You're telling me this motherfucker looked in my freezer and not, like, the book in my nightstand? Who thinks that way? Like, what the fuck is that? Right? And at first, I was even in denial. I was like, bro, did I just get so fucked up I forgot I put them somewhere? And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, there's no way. Like, I couldn't believe it because my other tabs were there. But I chilled at Michael's house for a good bit of the day. You know, I was chilling there for a while, and I went home a little later in the evening. I went home around like 6 or 7 p.m. And at this point, my dad still hadn't gotten home. You know, he didn't get home for another, like, hour or so. So I got home, and I'm looking around my room even more, right? The trip I had with Michael this day was not really that eventful. It was just a one-tab trip. Very mellow, light visuals, chilling out, smoking weed, you know? Nothing too cuckoo happened. But when I got back to my dad's house, that's when shit got really fucked. Now, I got back there, and I'm looking around my room for a little bit, trying to find the rest of my tabs. I'm in disbelief. I'm like, there's no way that these are gone. Like, there's just no chance. I'm looking all around trying to find them, and I just can't. So eventually, I just give up, and I sit on my computer. Now, my dad gets home, and almost immediately, he comes up to my room and just starts going off on me. He just goes, I'm tired of you doing these fucking drugs. It's the same spiel every fucking time. It's just hoopla nonsense. He'd yell the same random words every time, just a jumble of them. You'd mix them up sometimes, like Scrabble. It was just hoopla to me. I didn't listen to much, if any, of it, right? But pretty quickly it became apparent to me that he was telling me to get the fuck out of the house. Now, that's a problem because I don't have a vehicle. Normally, if I had a car, it's like, okay, that's fine. You know, I got the whip. I'm chilling. But no, I don't have a car at this point. So we're arguing a little bit back and forth, and that's the gist of it. I got to get out. So I grab a bag I had in my room. I had a duffel bag for these occasions. You know, at this point, I was a delinquent, so I was pretty used to getting kicked out. You know, it happened fairly often. So I packed up some shit in my bag. You know, I packed up the little bit of weed that I had tucked under my mattress, all crushed, all shake, dude. No nugs in this house. We're buying shake all day, baby. The budget smoke back in the day. You know how it fucking went. At this point, I really was, dude. I was just buying hella shake. But I put a little bit of weed I had in my bag, the little bit that I had left. I put the, you know, pretty much everything else I had, all the clothes that I had, all the everything I had. I couldn't pack my whole computer, you know, but I brought phone charger, you know, I brought some bottles of water, and I fucking made an Uber account, and I got the fuck out of there. Now, I Ubered to Kyle's house, who is a very common character. You guys know Kyle by now, you know. I went over to his house, and I chilled there for the night. You know, he let me crash on his couch, so I slept there. And I figured, you know what? I'm just going back the following day. Why the fuck not, you know? My dad goes to work from he goes to work like damn near 11 hours a day because of the commute. I'm sliding. Are you kidding me? I'm going in that bitch. I'm eating snacks. I'm fucking chilling. I'm going on my computer. I'm tired of it. And that's exactly what the fuck I did that day. But the problem is, as I mentioned earlier, he had cameras in his house. Now, I didn't give a shit about that, but he did. So he's calling me all crazy, talking about he's going to call the police and I'm trespassing. I'm sitting here and I'm like, dude, I live here. Like, what are you on about? You know, but he's going crazy on me and shit, you know? I'm tired of dealing with it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm grabbing some snacks and I'm going to kick it with the homies, but this time with chips. Right? So I hit the pantry and I stain all this motherfucker's chips. I'm jugging left and right. It's over with. It's like a bank heist. I'm in the vault taking everything. It's over with. I take all the chips, put them in my bag. I know he's pissed about that. That son of a bitch loved chips. So I'm fucking glad I did that, right? But either way, I put the chips in my bag and, you know, I've still got a little bit of bud left and I dipped the fuck out again. This time, I don't really know where to go because Kyle's at work. So I shit you not, I've got my new Uber account, but I'm still hitting people up. I'm just sitting on the driveway because I don't know where the fuck to go. There's no camera on the driveway. That's fucked, by the way. That's how you know those cameras were just to fuck with me. There was none on the outside. They were only on the inside. Like, for what? For what? Like, what the fuck? Either way, don't even get me going on this. So, I'm sitting on the driveway up against the garage, just hitting some homies up, trying to figure out where the fuck to go. And Michael, of course, hits me back. Now, I can't spend the whole night at Michael's, but Michael, his parents are almost never home. So I go to his house. We kick it for a little bit and match on a little bit of bud. And luckily, I just cashed my paycheck recently. So I had some money, you know. I wasn't totally fucking broke at this point, you know. It had been a few days since my check. So I was doing pretty all right at this point. I had my little bit of money, so I was able to grab food when I needed to. You know, I could pay for stuff if I had to. I will say, hey, whenever I got kicked out, not this particular time, but most of the time when I got kicked out, it's time to go stealing, especially if I got a car. You know, it's time to go stealing. I don't do that shit anymore, but back when I was young, I was a demon with that shit. I would steal from any store I was at, unless it was like, you know, a game store. You can't really do that. I have respect for video game stores. I don't steal from there. But, like, Walmart, get licked. Dude, I'm banned from there. But that's a different video. You can look that one up. Banned for life, by the way, from all of them. But, either way, still go there. But either way, so, I'm getting ready to rumble here. You know, I'm getting used to getting kicked out, kind of, and I'm chilling with Michael, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of the night. You know, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I can't spend the night here, and Michael knows that, too. We both know that, because the moment his mom gets home, I'm getting the boot, bro. She's going to tell me to get the fuck out. It happens every time. She's a nice lady, but she wants us to go home. So the problem is I no longer have a home for a few days. So eventually that happens, you know, pretty quickly, and I get the fuck out of there, and now I'm just trying to figure out where to go. Once again, same scenario. I'm standing around on the corner with a duffel bag outside of Michael's house, fucking asking people what they're on. And, you know, I've got a little bit of money, but at this point, I still wasn't 18. I still couldn't get a hotel. So, like, my little $200 I had, $150, wasn't going to get me any hotel or anything. And also, that would have been gone in, like, 2 days. Fuck that, man. I could just crash at some homies' cribs. So I'm hitting people up left, right, and center. I'm going absolutely cuckoo. And Sam, the boy himself, he's actually in a vlog of mine on my second channel. He hit me back, and I went over to his house, and we smoked some bowls, and I crashed there. This motherfucker, he's such a great dude. I love this kid. He was like, dude, you could fucking live here. And I'm like, Sam, all right, that's a little much, man. Like, I don't need to move in, but I appreciate you, bro. Like, thank you, man. But I chilled there for a little bit. And mind you, I didn't have shit left but a little bit of weed. You know, and Sam at the time wasn't serving any either. So eventually, we smoked our amount of weed, and we had to re-up. Sam and I were chilling. We're playing some COD Zombies, and we smoked our last bowl, and we're like, fuck, bro, it's time to get some weed. So we're hitting everybody up. We're hitting all the people up. And eventually, I Ubered over to Cody's house, once again with the free Uber account method. Grabbed some bud off his brother and Ubered back to Sam's, and we were kicking it. I really, shout out to Sam, dude. Such a real one for letting me crash on his couch. But after that, you know, I texted my dad, and I was just like, dude, can I fucking come home? And he was just like, yeah. And that's just how it went every time. I'd get kicked out for like 3 days. He'd be super livid, talking crazy to me, texting crazy to me. And then all of a sudden I'd text him and be like, can I come home? And he'd be like, all right. Yeah, like it was fucking wild. But either way, man, that shit was fucked. I wanted to share the story of the time my dad found my acid and it got a little wild. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Drop a like if you did. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, gamers.